comes. But today is Pam Weaver's normal day, the third Sunday of the month. And she gave me good morning, Liz, sent me a text this morning that her mother just passed. So she won't be doing it. And so we'll put her in the Reiki share. But the most important thing good morning, Ashley, that I was guided to do is we're gonna have this format today will be a little bit different. It just seems appropriate. My father's anniversary of his death in 1987 is tomorrow. And he, 87 to this is 22, and 9. My mind seems to be going blank, but that's 13, 22, and 13. So that would be 25 years of his passing. And he died on Black Friday, the same day that Edsel Ford died. And the same day that at that point, the stock market had the biggest crash that it had since the Great Depression. And, but he witnessed his own funeral 3 times before he died. And at the time, my sister and she had come in from Wisconsin, this was in Michigan, and I had come in from Virginia, and he appeared to be getting better. And so the doctors basically told us he just rallied. And I think that's pretty common with people on their deathbed, is that they might rally and effectively then the relatives go home or are told, in which case we were told, to please go back because there was no telling, when he would pass. And so 2 days later, we got the call that he passed away. So I started to think about this, and his presence is very, strong in my life right now, understandably, and there have been a few times where the way he pronounced my name was Ellis, like Ellis Island. So that's the closest he could get to Alice. And so there's been a couple times where I've heard that. So I kind of like, okay, hi, Dad. I knew he was around. But what I would like to do, there's not a whole lot of us on the screen today. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go around and ask each person what they think happens when you die. There have been some wonderful movies out there that kind of show you about the afterlife. I haven't seen some of the recent ones, but some of the older ones, and I took them down. I know this one was Meryl Streep, and I can't remember the male lead. It was called Defending Your Life, and well worth seeing if you haven't seen it. Then, of course, Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze in Ghost, Robert Downing Jr. in Heart and Soul. The stars of this one, it's an English film. It's called Madly, Truly, Deeply. It's an English film, and it's called The Thinking Man's Ghost. And then so those were the ones that came to my mind, and every single one of them contained an element of truth. But I think it would behoove us, we'll do a silent meditation and include Pam, include her mother's soul in this, and include our personal intentions, and include all of us. But it would behoove us to, like, I think, share what our opinions are of what happens when we transition. Anything you want to share at all? And Barb, I'm going to start with you since you're right next to me on the screen. So,
Well, I came very close last year. It was a
yeah,
year ago.
yeah,
I was in the car. I didn't know if I was dead or alive. I asked myself. Jesus came to me, and Archangel Michael held the space. I saw the tunnel. I saw the white light, and I saw two males looking down at me. But I was told, no, no, not yet. And it's the second time in my life. My grandmother, also after a surgery, after a heart attack, saw the same tunnel, saw her father and her sister waiting for her. And when my father passed away, I got the call. And as I was driving up north, I saw my father in total joy. His mother was there hugging him, and his best friend, who had passed away 2 months before. And he was just so liberated from the pain. When my mother died, the family was with her, and we saw the angels. I saw a huge angel behind her. And, we heard the death rattle, the chest rattling, but the room was full, and every one of us saw them.
interesting. Great.
Yeah, I mean, we described them for each other. I personally believe it's like when our soul's coming in, it's a huge, awful struggle. And then when we come out, there's a bright light and everyone's smiling and happy to see us. And I do believe that our exit will be very much the same.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I had a very dear friend who almost passed away a couple
Mhm.
years ago, and she said, I did die. But
Mhm.
again, I was told I had to go back. And
Mhm.
she said, I'm not afraid of death. It was fabulous. It was so joyous. So,
I actually asked for it and I was told no.
no, yeah. So you had to come back and nurse 13 broken bones,
15.
15 broken bones.
And I'm getting the hardware removed from my leg tomorrow so that I'll be able to walk more comfortably.
Excellent, excellent,
The miracle that
wonderful,
I can walk again. So
wonderful.
another miracle, Alice. Damien got a job
Wow.
after I don't know how many years. Yes.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Wonderful. Damien is your son.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, fabulous. Thank you. All
Yeah.
right, Liz, any comments you'd like to share on death, dying, the process, the transition, what happens to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, my experience, both my parents have passed, and in both instances, um, they had experiences where they saw loved ones. Like my father died suddenly when I was in college of a heart attack, but I hadn't left for school yet. And he said, I had the darndest dream, and his best friend from childhood had lost both of his legs to cancer. And he said, I had this dream of Tommy where I was hauling him around in a wagon and he was laughing and laughing and laughing. And I looked and his legs were there.
Wow.
And the next morning he passed. And then my mother it was a sudden illness, late stage cancer, colon cancer that was undiagnosed. But at different stages, I think she had the choice to stay or go, because before they had diagnosed it, she had an adverse reaction in the hospital to a drug where she was probably ready to go. And this was before she had any corrective surgery and the trauma of being in the hospital and all of that. And she kept saying, Ned, go away, and that's my father's name. And the nurse is like, who's Ned? And my sister said, my father. She's like, well, do you want to go get him? And she's like, well, he's dead. And the nurse went white, her face fell. And so, but throughout that whole process, there were moments like that. And when she finally did pass, it was very similar when she was in hospice. She was deteriorating, and then for 2 days she was like just this full of animation and energy, and then after that, the next day she passed. But she started calling for her mother, calling her mama, which is not a term of endearment we've ever heard. She wasn't really fond of mama for us. So it stood out. So I know that there were multiple times where she could see and feel people welcoming her and escorting her on that journey. And both times, the period after they passed, there were signs and strange things that happened. So all of us really in unusual ways felt that they were still lingering, to see what was happening, to see that we were okay, to send messages that they were okay. And then I saw that Mel Brooks movie too. I loved it. I personally think that that is what happens next, that you have a choice. Do you want to stay and linger and, you know, not move on, or do you want to move on and process what you've just been through on Earth? And I think what I think is probably very similar to defending your life, where you sit and you review your life, and then it informs what you do next.
And what was the movie that you said you liked the best? What was
It was the same one, the Mel Brooks movie.
Defending Your Life?
Yeah, that's the Meryl Streep one you mentioned.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That was that I thought that was so interesting, that particular perspective, you know. These were the times you let spirit down, and you know, I don't know. It's
And I think after that, I don't necessarily think it's all hunky-dory. I think you probably have to go and process your life, like good
Right.
and bad. And so it's not just like I've died and now I'm in a state of bliss. It's always a process of learning and what you want to do and how you're going to deal with what you faced on Earth.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why effectively, when I call on guides, I don't want anybody in the neighborhood. You know, I don't want any spirits that are just around me. I want the highest beings of light to guide me, those that have passed through the levels of initiation to be ascended masters, you know, things like this. So thank you, Liz, for that. And Melvin, what anything you'd like to share?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I start off with I don't know what happens, but in my life journey to this point of everything I've read and seen, I believe that everything is cyclical. So I don't believe it is the end when the body goes dormant. I believe the life force that lives in the body transforms into another state. What that state is, I'm not so sure of. And as far as me and dealing with death, I'm an only child. And well, I'm the only child by my mother and father. My father have other children and I know them, but I'm the only child. So that being said, I experience things and process things on my own. And now I'm in a stage where I've gotten all the paperwork from my mother and father, and I'm put my names on their deals so I can start paying them and making sure that the decimal point is in the right place, that you don't pay too much, or talk to my mother and say, don't pay bills, just let me know what needs to be paid and I'll pay it. And I did this is where it focuses me and forces me to look at it. And when I move my mother's portfolio over and stuff, and then you answer questions, what's your risk tolerance? Because the risk tolerance is also associated with years you intend to use the money. And so it hit me smack dab in the face that, you know, with my mother and father, this was within a 5-year period, realistically. Spiritually, it could be to eternity, but in this physical realm, it makes me look at it from a physical perspective. That being said, I want to live to be in my 90s personally, and that's what I'm gonna try to do. And I want to do it without a cane and without a wheelchair and without a breathing machine. But as I deal with it personally, I usually go numb. and it becomes a checklist. Did you get this paper signed? Did you get that paper signed? Did you send out the invitation? Did you pay the pastor? Did you do everything that it deals with what we do, what an individual does when they decide they want to transition out of their body? And then once I've hugged and we've laughed and we've partied and we've danced and we cried, then and everything's settled, then I may allow myself to feel in that point. But other than that, that's the way so far I've dealt with it, because in my head, that if I don't do it, it ain't gonna get done. You know, so I don't have time to nurse emotions and feelings for myself right now. I just need to get this done. So when it's all over said and done, I don't have any collectors. I don't have any, I've heard stories recently where the father wanted to be independent, but the children didn't know that he had put a reverse mortgage on the home. And he passes away, and then they finally get everything and they go to probate and find out that the house is in foreclosure, because but they didn't know there's a 6-month window of opportunity from when the person passes for you to pay the remaining mortgage on that reverse mortgage, but they didn't know it was there. So they had to go through all that. But anyway, I believe that you transition on. I don't believe what I was taught as a little boy of hell, fire, brimstone, heaven and hell. Somebody's going to come back and you're going to be caught up in the rapture. I do believe that heaven on earth or hell on earth, according to your decisions. But when I leave this body, I think I'm going to go on to some other place that I never thought of. And that's in that cyclical process, a state of mind. If you look at everything, it's cyclical. Summer, spring, winter, fall, summer, spring, winter, fall, summer, spring, winter, fall. And that's it for me.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you so much. And Ashley, would you like to share your feelings?
Yeah. Good morning. I'm calling in today from France in a hotel.
Oh,
Here for work. But anyway, so what I think happens is, and this is also informed by what I've read and my own intuition. So I think there's a process by which the soul, the spirit enters the body when someone is still in the womb, and it involves merging with the mothers, like the baby's auric field in the womb merges with the mothers, and there's this whole process where the presence or the spirit becomes more and more aligned with the baby in human form, and then it's born or whatever. And then also I think when you're approaching the end of your journey here on this plane, there's also a process by which the soul starts to separate back out very slowly, and there's stages to this. And as the soul is starting to separate slowly, as it goes back to the plane from whence it came, the person may start to see things. They might start to see loved ones that have already transitioned or passed on, but as if they're here now. Because I think the space that normally exists between life on this plane and then life in the next plane or planes is shrinking. It's easier. You're kind of in between both worlds a little bit as the process continues, and then you get pulled more and more, but you can see people that you haven't seen in a long time. Then when the transition finally happens, I do believe, I've heard oftentimes in the tunnel of light, or the tunnel, and then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I also believe there's the life review process. So you're taken through in an instant. There's no time really, but you relive, you go through your life again, but this time you're able to see very clearly what happened. So whereas while we're here, we have our own, you know, thoughts and mental patterns and whatever, our personality. When you've transitioned on, you can see very clearly what happened, and from both sides or different vantage points. And you can also see how you made other people feel, what your actions, how your actions impacted other people, and you can feel what they feel. And it becomes clear, like the path that you took and the impact that it's had and on others, and what you might need to work through, because there's like a guide or someone or guides that are there with you. And it becomes clear through the life review process what you might want to work through or work on in the next incarnation or whatever. But you don't immediately have to go into the next incarnation. You can also just stay in that plane for a while and rest or do whatever. Yeah, I think also it's not scary. It's not like you're on the other side and it's like a scary, it's like pretty much home. So you've been there already many times. So yeah, that's some of what I think.
Excellent. Super. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. And I'm going to go with who's behind the scenes. Anna, how about you? Anything you'd like to share?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. So I have, and thanks everyone who shared before me. Wow, so powerful. So I'm dealing with the situation of this year, a lot of deaths happening. And I'm thankful because part of my process has been a healing journey and learning how to deal with grief, and really feeling. So, and not wanting to not face it, or, you know, my family's in a way where just be strong, they're in a better place. And that's how, you know, my growing up mentality was. And I think about when my father passed away and I was in my sophomore year of college, and I had to come home, and I just felt in this frozen place because I didn't know how to deal with death or what it encountered. So I think I felt like I was in this fog, and things were just happening around me, right? And I think I had to be about 19 or 20 at the time. So death has been something that's been where I don't really deal with it as much, or knew how to deal with it. Now that I've grown in my life and I've worked on some things, and through this healing journey, I have, you know, learned how to go in my body and really feel and know that it's okay to cry, feel pain, feel angry, feel sad. Just a major process. And I've learned that. So this time around when my mother passed, which was about 7 years ago, I knew what to do. I knew how to show up, really feel, really be thankful for the process of me being there to feel her presence and be in the present to know that she's with me. She's going to come back. I think in the process of my father, I wondered, you know, did I do the right thing? What was I supposed? It was just this whole thing of not knowing, right? And now it's in knowing, right? And it feels good to me because I believe, you know, there is a heaven and they are in a heaven, and they're, you know, they've transcended to heaven to look down, you know, and provide. And if I'm aware and open, I will notice things. I will notice them showing up in my life, right? So I see a lot of that today, of my father showing up in my life, my mother. Just got back from Delaware, feeling some energy about my sister, you know, so that I'd be in the presence to feel her presence when she shows back up to let me know different things. So I do believe that in death, they come back to show us different things. And us here on life, also believing that anything that wasn't done that they wanted to do on earth, or that they didn't get to do it, me as a family member, I can look up to my ancestors and I can free that and stop that and clear that for them. So that while they're in heaven, it's like, wow, thank you. That was a big load, because they couldn't do it here on earth. But in relationship to that, I'm able to do that and clear that. Clear that spirit that of something that they couldn't do that stops it. So, and I want to say grief. I didn't know how to grieve, right? And in not knowing how to grieve, I always wonder, like, well, what is it? What's happening to them up there? How is that process, right? Because growing up in a Baptist church, it was more like it's hell and heaven, right? So, are you going to go to hell? So I had to, a lot of work around that, right? And so happy today that I'm in the presence and I believe in total heaven and everything is there and it's and they're still here with me. And that I know how to grieve today and be okay that they've gone on to another plane. And not be in my head, but be in my body. So I've had to do a lot of work about that. And even in the last passing, my sister, just to be there for family members who don't understand the transcending process. To say, hey, you don't have to be strong. Scream, kick, yell, do what you need to do to feel.
Mhm.
It's okay. And relive mine. You don't have to be like, don't cry, just be strong. They're in a better place, instead of really me and that, and I want to say that child who did know how to feel or what was happening, to say, this doesn't feel good. I'm angry, question why'd you leave me? I didn't have time to do things like that. So today I do. And today I show up in that fashion to, and I saw the difference in these deaths. And it was like, oh, okay, for my sister, I'm in the presence with them. So it's like I'm here with my nieces and nephews. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. This is how you mourn. And still to be there to teach them that, to stop that family process of how things were happening with death. So I hope that explains it. But it's been a process for me with that. So thanks for talking about that this morning. And I hope that you all understood my process to that.
Mhm.
Anna,
Yeah.
that was wonderful. Thank
For
you.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, every single person who's spoken touches a piece of us that says, yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I need. That's how I feel. And okay, so we have Sherelle and Amber. So I think Amber, you came on first, so we'll ask you.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I think Alice, that was well said. I definitely resonated with something that everybody has said. So I was happy to join today. I do think that our consciousness makes a decision to come into the body, and I kind of liken it to us making a decision for a once in a lifetime adventure or going to do something, and our consciousness chooses to come and live in this third dimension on earth to have a human experience. I do believe that when our body is no longer able to hold our consciousness, we move to another plane where we have extraordinary awareness, because we're no longer confined by the senses that we largely rely upon in the body. So I believe that it feels almost like a waking up when you wake up from a dream and you're like, oh, and you're like, wow, that was crazy. But, you all of a sudden have a lot of awareness. And I think that passing on is a similar thing. And I do think, our consciousness comes to live and to learn. And I think we have bonds with other consciousnesses or souls, and we adventure together, and then we choose to adventure again. And all of those things just to continually raise our vibration. And I think it was Liz that said, making those decisions. I think that we have soul pacts with others and things like that. And I think it's all well orchestrated to the point that we can't understand here when we're through the veil, but whenever we pass on, it's all there. And I think so when my uncle died, my mom got a very strong message from him, and those words were extraordinarily aware. And he passed a very long, sad struggle with ALS and was very worried about, dying and going to hell. Is there a hell, being raised Catholic? And my mom worked with him for, over a year to make him understand that that's not the way it's going to be. So when she got that message from him, extraordinarily aware, she knew, that he had moved to a place that he was able to then process his life and still be with all of us in a way. So thanks for letting me share.
Super, thank you. And the last one is Sherelle.
Good morning, everyone. I just woke up, so I probably sound crazy. But I actually missed the question because I was a little bit late.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the question is exactly.
Okay, just share any of your feelings about death and dying. Pam Weaver's, this is supposed to be Pam Weaver's session, but her mother just passed away. And so she wasn't able to take the session. So we're going to do a 15-minute silent meditation on her. And I think, Sherelle, you came in and everybody had an opportunity to share. Maybe you missed one person and everything. So you might have missed Barb. But other than that, just any thoughts you might want to share on death and dying.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I am sorry to hear that her mother has passed, but thank you for sharing. Sure. So I definitely resonate with a lot of what people have said. I definitely believe that our soul has an opportunity to choose when they're going to come into our body. And then they don't. I think that our soul knows when our body is dying, for lack of a better words. And I think that it begins to give us an opportunity to kind of, what's the word? Kind of become more clear about the things that we have been through, but only once our body is no more do we go into that other plane where the body or not the body, excuse me, our soul becomes completely aware. I definitely believe that that is a process. I don't think it's something that happens automatically, but I think that we're given the opportunity to kind of have a bird's eye view of those things that we've been through and those things that have made a huge impact in our lives, but also those things that are seemingly small that we didn't necessarily realize had a big impact, but also played a role in the way that our life was on Earth. I think that our soul is able to kind of just be in that other space for as long as it chooses to be. After it's gone through, I feel like time doesn't exist there, right? But I feel like in my limited view of time, it's at least like 365 days for some reason. I don't know why. I just see that. Also, I think being here, I've been in Mexico for 2 years at the end of this month, and being able to see Dia de los Muertos, but also where I'm at in the Yucatan, it's Mayan land, and there are a lot of Mayan people here who still practice the same traditions and religion that they did way back when. And they have something called Hanal Pishan, which is essentially Dia de los Muertos, but it is deeper, if you will. And so they have, they place altars in places and they put out the food and things to kind of invite the souls of their departed ones back for those days. And they believe that the souls come and they get to partake with the family and, love on the family and kind of be there for the celebrations. And I've been able to see death as more of a, your body is done and your soul has graduated, and it's a celebration of you being able to leave this very limited space on earth, and go into the infinite. And so, yes, people are sad, and yes, people grieve, but it is more of a, wow, you did it. Like, you completed this thing, and now you don't have to suffer on earth with the rest of us, because earth is so scary and has so much suffering in so many places. So I think that has really reflected in my own beliefs of what it looks like when people pass on. Um, yeah, I think I used to be really scared of death, and now I'm not.
Mm.
And now I really see the way that people go on, and their spirit continues to live, and they become higher beings of light, and they become our guides and our protectors and all of that. And it gives you more of a sense of solace than it does sadness. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Super. Thank you, Cheryl. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you immersed yourself in a different culture. And the Day of the Dead was because the All Souls Day is around the corner for us. There was a huge article on the Washington Post today about that. My beliefs were almost echoed word by word by Ashley. She and I share almost identical type of beliefs. The only thing that I wanted to add is in the life review, I feel you have two groups of beings that guide you. You have the Council of 12 that do your help you set up your new life. And you can take as many years as you want to before you come back to Earth. People sometimes some souls will come back very quickly, and they don't choose their parents very wisely. So their growth is a little bit more limited. Those that take their time really understand what happened in their life review. And the life review is done with your karmic board. Your karmic board is three beings, I should say, three higher beings, and one of which is your higher self, that part of you which stays attached to you, to your personality self, but also stays attached to God. Never leaves God, but never leaves you. And then you have two other beings that are part of your karmic board. And your karmic board simply evaluates what it is that you have done with your life. But I think exactly what Ashley said, you get to feel the emotions. It's like it is the life review, but you get to feel the emotions of what the other person felt from what you said and what you did. So a little different perspective on it. And I don't know. I guess the older I get, the more the calmer I get about having to face my own transition, because that's all I feel death is. I don't feel that I mean, personally, I feel there is no death. It's just walking through a door, walking into a different dimension, and leaving this plane, going into another one, then choosing to come back here or not. Sometimes not. Sometimes you may choose to go to another planetary system, and say, I'm not ready for Earth. Earth is very, very dense, and Earth's lessons are very, very harsh. So there are beings that sit and watch. There are souls that sit and watch what we go through, and they basically say, I can't do that. I just can't do that, And then there are others that just, understand that, yeah, I want to try that. My understanding of life is, as relates to death, is that you will go to the highest level that you've achieved while you were here on earth. And the highest level, a lot of times, is determined by how you were able to forgive those who trespassed against you, were the transgressors, were the meanies, were the ones that made your life miserable. Could you effectively forgive them? And if you could forgive them, that will take you to a higher plane than you were, you know, if you weren't able to forgive them. If you leave here still holding on to regret, remorse, rage, you know, hatred, you know, anything negative. But anyway, all right. Well, I think that's enough.
Alice, I'm sorry, but I have a comment I want to make based on the conversation. I had a friend who was an ancient Hebrew scholar, and he has the world's largest collection of middle-aged maps of Jerusalem from the time of the, you know, ancient times, from 1500s. And he was showing me the maps, and he showed me a section outside of the wall of Jerusalem. He said, "You Gentiles are so foolish and so full of anguish and fear." He said, "This is hell." That was the Hebrew name for the dump. And that changed my whole perspective. Look what we created out of that word. I mean, you tell someone to go to hell, that means you're going to the dump. And that really, really changed my life. It may be something people might want to look into to find the original meaning of the word hell from ancient Hebrew.
Interesting. And yeah, that's a good point. But there was one person too that said there is no hell. And even the Catholic Church, which I grew up with, heaven and hell, you know, that the same as the Baptist, the same as the Lutheran. But even then, I think Pope John Paul II basically had a meditation with the Blessed Mother and came back with the words, "There is no hell." And that is my belief. It's all transitioning into some level of light. It's just different vibrations. That's all it is. But oh my gosh, the time is amazing. All right, we're going to do 15 minutes of silent meditation, but I'm going to do a prayer of connection first. And and then we won't have any kind of feedback afterwards. I think what we've done here has been pretty powerful, just giving our own views as to what we think happens when we transition. And those of you who want to look around and see what, you know, Hollywood has done with this, madly, truly, deeply, heart and soul, defending your life. And I'm sure that there are some new ones like Heaven Can Wait or Heaven is Real, some new ones out there that where young souls have transitioned and gone, you know, to heaven, but have come back and everything. So anyway,
Alice, before
yeah.
you start, I'd also like to throw out, I had a similar experience, I think, to others, like Anna, where I lost my father when I was teen. I really didn't know how to grieve. And then when I was an adult, I lost my mother. And one of the things that I found was really helpful, we've lost that sort of multi-generational family living where you experience death in the family at home. And I didn't even know that was a death rattle my mother was experiencing until she just looked at me and she's like, "It's the death rattle." And the hospice, all the hospice organizations everywhere, if you Google it, have these wonderful brochures, online resources that walk families through everything from actually the physical process of dying to then the after the death and the stages of grief. And I think we spend so much, this is a really powerful discussion today because we spend so little time in society actually talking about death, that when it does happen and you're hit with that brick wall of grief, you don't really know what to do with it. And you think you unique, and it's recreating the wheel. There's just so much beautiful support out there that if anybody is knowing someone going through it, or you're going through it yourself, I would just encourage you to look at what kind of resources the hospice organizations have online.
Excellent. That's great advice, Liz. And there are, just like there are birth doulas, there are death doulas. Now, individuals that are helping people who especially have such a fear of death, helping them transition to the next plane. So, all right. So we're gonna, I'm going to say our prayer of connection. So very gently close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and exhale. Dear Mother, Father, God, divine, infinite spirit, source of all that is, I ask to be connected to you, to my higher self, and to the higher self of everyone here present. I also include Pam Weaver and her mother. I also include all our personal intentions, whoever or whatever they may be. I ask that the angels, archangels, ascended masters, Reiki masters, but most especially Master Jesus, Master Buddha, Master Kutumi, Saint Francis, Saint Germain, Saint Gabriel, Saint Raphael, Saint Michael, the Blessed Mother, the Divine Feminine, Mary Magdalene, Moses, Metatron, Melchizedek, Mohammed, and Kuan Yin. I ask that we be cleared, centered, aligned, balanced, and grounded. And I ask that all the souls that are transitioning right this second from this planet, all the souls that have transitioned from this planet, but don't know where they are, don't have a clue that they are in a new state, a new place. And if they just follow the light, that they look for that pinpoint of light, and all they need to do is turn, 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 until they see the light and go towards that. And that light is the light of Christ. The Christ consciousness, the unconditional love that will help guide them into the new place, the new elevation, the new state. And any beings in spirit that may have felt that they had unfinished business, that there was something that they left behind, that they are able to contact their personal family members, their loved ones, anybody on the earth that can help move them through and package their feelings into a sense of finality, into a sense that they are complete with their journey in this lifetime. And now please take a deep breath in and exhale. And as you put your hands about a foot apart, just visualize whoever or whatever you need to visualize to help you with this meditation. Now it is with our intent that we have sent and invoked the Reiki energy to come and be sent to where we asked for it to be sent. And now, with our intent, we are also going to smooth 3 times everything and everyone that we sent Reiki to. And then we are going to seal 3 times with the sign of the infinity. Where we sent our Reiki to. And we say, Namaste. Amen. And we thank you all for being here, and especially for sharing your ideas on this. It's so powerful to have a group share. We can have the same instruction, but have different attitudes towards everything. We can receive the same information, but still have different attitudes. So I felt that that was very, very important in light of what happened today, this morning. And I thank you so much for being here. And next week is Shar Haskell. And at this point, if my family comes from New York, I won't be here. If they come for Halloween with both grandbabies, I won't be here. But if they don't come, I will be here. So anyway, everybody have a great week, and we will hopefully see you soon. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.